All right. Welcome, everybody, to Down the Rabbit Hole, which is the new name for our show. And the reason why we renamed it is because we wanted to express that we don't just cover FLUF World, but rather the greater ecosystem. So that's the reason for the name change. And today we have very exciting guests. David McDonald, CEO of Altered State Machine. Welcome, David.
Hey, bro, how's it going?
Living the dream.
Choice?
And today, the focus of our conversation is going to be about the partnership with FIFA
Oh, you
and
heard about that, did you?
the upcoming World Cup, which is 5 days away now.
Yeah. Yeah, what are we, 16th today? Yes.
So, why don't we start off by the guest, David and now Magic Mountain Bear, who's come onto the stage? Why don't each of you introduce yourselves and then introduce the partnership with FIFA and Altered State Machine in general?
Cool. So, as mentioned, David McDonald, CEO and founder of Altered State Machine, which is the protocol for non-fungible intelligence. We've been particularly focused around the gaming space, and in particular around sports gaming to begin with the likes of the partnership with Muhammad Ali, some others that are in the works, as well as obviously FIFA, which we're probably going to talk a little bit about today. That one's been a little while in the works. We've been working alongside their team to come up with a experience for the World Cup that leads into the overall AFA game, which will be released early next year. So pretty excited to work with the FIFA team. Amazing brand. A huge amount of exposure for the ecosystem and our industry in general. So really excited to see what the reaction to what we've built is.
Thanks, David. Magic Mountain Bear, you're up.
Hey everyone, Magic Mountain Bear, aka Genesis Brian in the Discords, and I am the community manager for the AI League Discord.
Awesome. So the way this show works is anybody can come up to the stage and ask the question, and in the meantime, Somnium and I will try to get the conversation started with a few questions. I guess I'll go first, and then Som can go next. Since the marketing started, David, how happy are you with the results so far, or is it still way too early to know? I guess since the World Cup starts in 5 days, a question that I'll pose to you is, do you expect most of the signups for the predictor experience, which is an experience where people predict the match results of the World Cup, is that something that would happen after the first game or before the first game?
So the initial prediction, so that the predictions will open up before the first game happens. So you want to be predicting ahead of time, and then continue to roll out as the matches start. As far as our expectations go, we're on track with what we thought we would get. And in saying that, it is orders of magnitude higher than just marketing to Web3 community alone. So it's really doing exactly what the intention was, is to bring in and expand the Web3 space, rather than just competing for the small slice of pie that is currently there. I think all world-class projects should be striving to bring more people into the space, and focus less on fighting over the people already in there. And that's definitely doing that so far.
Awesome. Sam, did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in. Hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for coming. I appreciate David being here as well. Yeah, just want to say I was curious to know what you guys have kind of been most excited about. I think would be a good one to start off with, and what that you can talk about. Obviously, no alpha, but what have you kind of been most excited about recently, and just as things develop?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting to see the full plan for Futureverse start to really take off now and roll out. This whole time, we've been building wide, and we've been focusing on all the core technology that's required to get us to this point. And now we get to do some of the exciting stuff, which is work with these massive brands, and FIFA being the biggest one so far. Not the first one we've worked with, but definitely sort of a sign of what's to come. And we're now at the point with, we've put all this hard work in to get here. Now we can start seeing some of the fruits of that labor. So it's pretty exciting. Sort of next year is going to be a really interesting year for people who follow the ecosystem and follow the Futureverse projects. And this is kind of just the beginning. Yeah. I mean, I know we always say this, it's just the beginning. And every single time we outdo ourselves. So I think you guys are getting used to that by now.
Yeah, definitely. And I've noticed a lot of the interconnectedness across the projects now, especially having like a Futureverse Slack and everything, and like just how we can all reach out to each other, and everything's pretty open in terms of like information sharing for the most part, and like just visibility across things. And it's an important part of it because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people doing different things. So it's been great seeing us evolve and really adapt to deliver great things. So that's been exciting for me as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. I agree.
Yeah, go ahead if you have anything else.
No, just sort of echoing your sentiment there. It's getting that collaboration between the teams is awesome. We've been all closer in the beginning, but that's getting tighter and more formalized as we go along, which is great.
Yeah, definitely some awesome structure being added. I know we're getting near the end of the next mining cycle, which I believe is the last mining cycle. So just wanted to touch on that and kind of what's been going on there with Illyria and all that stuff as well.
Yeah,
and
so Cortex has been expanded out with more functionality. I know we've talked about in the Discord AMAs the Void stuff where you can get rewarded with LP tokens for your Asto energy for big projects that come through. The first project that we're launching this functionality on will be the FIFA project. So expect to see more information coming out around that as the functionality in the Cortex begins to expand, and the protocol mechanics and tools continue to be released.
Yeah, that's super exciting. I've been mining brains and actually got some Ascendeds last time, so that was exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been cool seeing all the realms reveal.
I've had pretty good luck with Ascenders, to be honest. I usually don't have really good minting luck. Probably one of the worst, but for some reason, Ascenders have been quite lucky for me.
Nice. Yeah, I know a lot of people have been putting in some serious effort mapping out like where they've all been mined from, and just like different, I don't know, veins and things like that. So it's been fun seeing that evolve.
Yeah, agreed.
Reminder that anybody that has any questions.
The release of the Seeker dashboard is a crucial milestone in the release of the Silo network. Phase 2 involves...
And my question, getting back to the FIFA partnership topic, is what does the path look like for someone that is not a Web3 native and signs up to do the predictor game, how do we expect to onboard them, and what are we expecting to onboard them to? Like, what would their pathway and experience look like on a moving forward basis?
So initially, they're just going to log in like they would to any website that they're currently familiar with. I think that's really important. As soon as we try and chuck something extremely foreign in front of them, like download MetaMask, get a private key, lock those private keys in a safe, download token for gas, calculate how much gas you need for a transaction. So if you start sending people down that rabbit hole, unless you're a power user like all the people probably on this Twitter space right now, you're going to lose people pretty quickly. So it was important that the first thing that they get exposed to.
The release of the Seeker dashboard is a crucial milestone in the release of the Silo network. Phase 2 involves bootstrap
user experience. As things progress, so everybody who signs up for FIFA will have a root network, login into the root network. Essentially, will become a user on their root network. As functionality expands for them, they'll get exposed to more and more Web3 concepts like self-custody, for example, but in a user-friendly experience that is not overwhelming to them. So as they get these digital collectibles, they're going to be able to, if they want to trade them, they're going to be able to do that by taking custody of them and then entering into a marketplace and trading them in a very familiar kind of a way for them that is not exclusive to power users. So the intention is just to have the softest on-ramp as possible, get as many people into the ecosystem as we can. If we can get, if we can perform at the level of a sort of low end or relatively okay Web 2 experience, then we're already exceeding the entire Web 3 space as far as usability goes. So that's kind of the goal there, is to onboard as many people as possible in the easiest user experience we can possibly build.
Yeah, I love that we really focus on user experience here and trying to make that as clean and as effective as possible, and enjoyable. Obviously, it's got to be like a fun experience, so it's always a good thing to focus on. Thor, welcome to the stage. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah, I just had a question about machine learning. And I know that you understand these terms, but I want to keep the community engaged, so I'm going to explain a little bit as we go along here. So in the past, ASM's talked about how there's two different machine learning ways that our brains are going to be developing into better and better sports athletes or whatever task that we've set them to be. And that's GANs, or generative adversarial networks, which you can think of pretty much akin to evolution. Populations increase, the correct task is completed, that one is carried forward to the next round, and so on until you get to the task that you want. And the other one is more of a reinforcement learning style. And again, you can think of that as more like child rearing. So child does something good, you give them something good. Child does something bad, you take away something good. And then there's the opposites. You can do something bad and you get a punishment, or you can do something bad and you get taken away something good. So we've got two different ways that we can train our brains, and both of those make a lot of sense, except for when it comes down to, like, GANs, totally get it. Like that makes total sense how we're going to train our brains using the generative adversarial networks, right? The one that completes the task to the best is going to move on to the next round. But I don't understand how reinforcement learning is going to help train our brains. So they're just code. So how does one provide a positive punishment or a negative how does one do that to the code?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and just to clarify something, those are two of many different kinds of ways we can train machine learning in the brains. We also are deploying in an upcoming use case imitation learning as well. So a human will show the AI how to do it, and the AI will learn based off what it observes the human doing. As for reinforcement learning, you basically the higher score that it gets, the more likely the neural network is to make the same decision again. Essentially, is how that works. So you increase the score for certain actions, or decrease the score for certain actions, and it reinforces those neural pathways essentially in the code. The pathways that lead to that action happening under those circumstances. So that's essentially how reinforcement learning is working in the background.
Interesting. It kind of feels like it bleeds over a little into, obviously I know this stuff at like the 101 basic level, like watch a YouTube video, think you know things, and I'm not saying that I do, but it sounds a little bit similar to the GANs though. Like you're establishing a set of conditions, and the one that achieves it is going to move forward, but then you're kind of taking that away and you're saying, okay, we're not going to create a giant multiples of all of you and take the winner. We're just going to go back on the steps that you've taken and kind of save those, and you're gonna follow that same path the next time and avoid the other path that was not rewarded and received a lower score.
It kind of just tries. So you have some sort of knobs and levers that you can tweak in a reinforcement learning model that enables you to tweak how quickly it learns or how far off the path it goes to learn. So you have things like entropy, which introduces some randomness into the decision-making process to allow the model to try new and crazy things throughout its learning. But that decreases over time as it converges on a solution. So you don't want it to be constantly trying crazy things when it's already found an optimum solution. So you have some tweaks and knobs and levers that you can play around with that allow you to refine that learning journey for the reinforcement model. But you basically say, try random shit, and the shit that works, keep doing that.
And then will it be like, so basically you're getting less plastic the further you go along your training. Is there going to be... Yeah. You're going to be able to reset that for, say, a different skill set?
Yeah, for sure. So that's really important lever to expose to users is the ability to kind of reset training and maybe take your model in a different direction. So that's where things like the memory tree come into play, where you can sort of go back and to another state and branch off a new set of training from that previous state that your brain was in, which allows you to try out different things that different approaches to solving problems.
Yeah, that's great. And then before I give this over, you mentioned imitation as well. So that opens up a whole nother interesting way that we can, so it's going to mimic human interactions. Like,
pretty cool.
I mean, that seems like something new and fresh that we haven't really gone into a lot. I was just.
So imitation learning's been around for a little while, but I haven't seen any really cool gamified applications of it until we started researching it. So there's some really cool things you can do if you design your games around incorporating imitation learning into them. There's some really cool things that you can do there, where you can teach something to do something really simple, like what's an example? Like pathfinding in an environment. You could teach your courier drone to fly around a virtual environment from A to B by just using the WASD keys and sort of showing it what it needs to do, to something more complex like full VR shadow boxing, teaching your Next Legends character a new combo that it might not have learned before. So the spectrum of things that you can do with imitation learning is pretty broad, and it works very quickly in comparison to something like reinforcement learning. So the training time required for imitation learning is significantly lower. We also have some amazing technology around utilizing more than one of these technologies together, which we'll give updates on shortly, which is really exciting.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. I hadn't heard much of ASM talking about imitation or mimicry. So I just think that's fantastic, because now the human feels as if they're the one that trained their little boxer, and it creates more of a kind of an emotional attachment. There's a stronger bond that's being created between you and your AI. If you taught them that combo, then they pull that off, and there's that level of pride. I'm just saying, like, it's a stronger connection between you and your little player than just throwing it into the gym.
And in practice, it really does feel that way as well when you're playing. When I've been playing some of these prototypes with imitation learning, that's exactly what it feels like, and it's very cool. I think I would like to have that included in some of that functionality included in the alpha game. I can't confirm whether that would be in the initial release or not. The last thing I want to do is delay it any further. But it is really cool functionality that we'll see pop up in certainly other experiences, if not in the alpha game as well.
Beautiful. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thanks for the question. So great.
We have a written audience question, and then we'll hear from IFKA, who's joined us on stage. The written question is from NFT Bro, and it's: Aaron mentioned refer a friend links, friend subgroups, and other, are things that are being worked on. Will these be live prior to the first match? Or
I think they're going live today.
Oh, okay. Well, that was an easy answer. Also, he noticed that there was a site called play.fifa.com with another prediction game and other games. Will ASM be featured on that?
I don't think we're on play.fifa.com as far as I'm aware.
Okay. Anything you want to do regarding about elaborating on the marketing effort, or we're just happy with the current results of how many people joined 5 days in?
We're very happy with the results so far, for sure. And there's a lot more marketing activities to come.
Awesome. Let's hear from IFKA.
Hey guys.
Hey,
David. That imitation learning, I'll echo that sentiment. That sounds amazing. Almost gonna feel like a cyborg, one with the technology. So very excited for that. With the training, so then with these different types of training, in essence, we could say under a boxer application, we could have like two different brains, two different boxers, and then have different types of learning in each brain and kind of see the outcome and how they might differ.
I can't go into a huge amount of detail on the how different learning models will interact together. because there is a patent application in progress at the moment around that. But it is a pretty novel approach that we've taken to combining machine learning models in very interesting ways.
Awesome. And then if you can answer any of these couple questions with the training, whatever approach or combination of approach that takes, will our agents be able to, say we give them those instructions, will they be able to keep training while we are offline?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. And similar to what we saw with the thingies, where there was a rest and cool down, will there be something similar with training the agents?
It depends on the use case. So there's lots of good reasons to do that for the thingies. We wanted people to think carefully about the artwork that they were minting. We didn't just want to flood the market with hundreds of thousands of artworks that weren't really curated and thought through. I think it's kind of forced people to make decisions. Do I really like this piece? Is it worth minting? Which is the kind of behavior we wanted to see. Some use cases that's appropriate, but some use cases you just want people to jump in and do things as much as possible. So it depends.
Awesome. Great. Well, that's all I can think of right now.
Awesome. Good question. Thanks, man.
One thing I wanted to touch on earlier is you mentioned something like mimicry might not be in the initial release, but I think it's important to keep in mind these are iterative products, so it's just cool to think about what V1 looks like or like an MVP looks like versus years down the road as these products develop. I just think that's cool to think about.
Yeah, exactly. It's 100% correct, and anything we do within this ecosystem is designed to be iterated on in collaboration with the community. So take your feedback and change and improve. And you see that all the time with improvements to the underground things that we've been putting into Cortex and other experiences along the way. The burrows, that next version hasn't been released yet, but they're really, really cool, with a whole bunch of the community feedback in there. So yeah, 100%. These are made to be worked on for their entire life cycle.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the best ways the community can get involved too is just providing that feedback, and we can iterate on it over time, and just providing a better experience for everybody. And yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Brian, what have you been working on recently? I know you got hired, so I wanted to say congrats formally.
Thank you.
Working on the FIFA end of things, so
thank you.
Just
Yeah, I
curious
appreciate
how things are going.
I appreciate that. Everything's going great. It's been a lot of fun. This team is incredible.
You're
but give me just 1 second. I'm working on something that will go live in the FIFA Discord very shortly. So give me just a couple minutes here. Oh, hello.
Oh, you're dropping that, huh? Uh-oh. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that. If anybody else wants to jump up on stage and ask questions, feel free to come up.
Yes, please do request to come on stage. And in the meantime, I will ask a question to our panelists, though Magic Mountain Bear seems to be working on something. What is your take on the big news that's been going on over the past week in the crypto world, which is FTX becoming insolvent and other issues that are related to that? Does it set back the crypto space? What are the consequences, and what other things can we learn from it?
Yeah, it's really sad, and I just want to I just want to share some support for anybody out there who's been affected by it. I know it's a really shit thing to happen, and I just want everybody to look after their mental health during these times and reach out to their communities. I know the ASM community is always kind and a safe space for people to kind of express themselves. So feel free to jump in the Discord and reach out. And if I'm on there, I'm always there to listen and talk through anything. For us personally, in Altered State Machine and across the whole ecosystem, we haven't been affected by it at all. We manage our own treasury. I mean, we've been around longer than most of these DeFi protocols have, and have seen all this happen before. So we take proper precautions when it comes to the stuff. We've got nothing on any decentralized or any centralized exchanges. Our treasury is managed in the lowest risk way possible. We have to pay our employees. Our employees have to pay their mortgages and feed their kids, and you don't fuck around with that shit. You don't gamble with people's livelihoods like that. So we go the lowest risk path when it comes to the money we need to pay our employees. For the industry and as a whole, it sets things back a little bit. I think it's important to have a distinction between projects that are focused on building technology that includes things like blockchain and decentralized technologies, and crypto decentralized finance projects. And we're a little bit sheltered from it because we're not a DeFi protocol. We're not a sort of a crypto token protocol as much as a technology project. So we're not as heavily affected as other people might be in this scenario. But it does, whenever something like this does happen, it does affect everyone. It makes everyone's job harder. So the sooner we filter out these bad actors in our space, the better it is for everyone, and the easier it will be to build and move forward.
Yeah, I'm hoping, and I've kind of seen this around a bit, is that we're kind of fitting in like decades of, restructuring and crypto strife, if you will, into kind of like a few years. Well, maybe more than a few, but we're definitely kind of accelerating the growth and rise of crypto, I feel like, but in very destructive ways from this type of thing happening. So hopefully good comes from it, and I think regulation is welcome and needed, but just hoping that the people in power do the right thing and have everybody's best interest in mind. It's definitely an important thing, and like you said, is messing with other people's money and customer funds, that sort of thing. It's not something that's to be played with. So yeah, like you said, if anybody wants to reach out or has any thoughts, feelings about it, people are always here to talk. So we've got a couple new speakers. I think No Credits was first, and then we'll go to Vulture. How are you?
Thanks for having me on, team. I'm good, thank you. David, just a question about the transition between the stages on the prediction game, in the sense that once the prediction game's over, once the whole event's over, then there's this possibility of the team's idea and the AI gaming and all that. How is that going to look and feel, from, if there's anything you can tell me, for the user who isn't friendly with Web3? Are they going to have a chance to win some characters which will then sort of lead them into that next phase, or how's that planned?
Yeah, so everybody who plays the prediction game will get a character that will be minted on the Root network, and there'll be different levels of rarity depending on how well you've done in the prediction game, along with the other prizes that have been given away for the prediction game. They'll then download the game and be able to use those characters in a sort of simplified version of the AFA game, essentially, where we've got some of this new technology that we've been talking about around the AI that's going to be exposed to the users, and they can play some matches.
Is the idea that they team up with their mates who also won a character, or did they put their character into an AI team, or how does that like?
So they'll get a full team
right.
of players, which they can mix and match a little bit with, and then they also have the ability to unlock AI skills, which they can then choose to, without revealing too much, they can play around with those skills and how they work together in order to optimize a team to climb up the ranks of the tournament and play against other people's teams.
Nice. And I think I know the answer, but is this whole kind of exposure to a realm of people who aren't Web3 friendly, is that kind of like a big learning opportunity for you guys? Are you looking forward to sort of gleaning as much data out of that, or are you have you planned ahead where you know kind of how it's going to go? What side of the fence are you guys on there?
It's a bit of both. It's kind of in a lot of ways a world first in the way we're approaching this. So there is no data out there for how this is going to work. I think other projects have sought to bring audience into Web3. We're kind of bringing Web3 out into a much larger audience, which is a different approach, and it's going to be interesting to see the results of that.
Cool. Thanks for answering.
No problem.
All right, we'll go to Vulture, and then I'll go to a community question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we sure can. How's it going?
Awesome. Yeah, it's good. And yeah, I echo the sentiments I posted in the Astro Price chat last week, being like, yeah, hope everyone's doing okay. Not your keys, not your coins. So keep that in mind. But on that kind of thought, again, I know I've been like probably the last two AMAs talking about this UX of like the first time onboarding people. I'm just trying to get like the specifics of like how this actually works, because as far as I've seen, like a lot of what usually happens is like if we don't want people to have to understand about their wallet and all that kind of stuff, then that means it's like basically like a custodial wallet in the like initial kind of implementation. So the inventory of the player is technically a wallet, but it's just kind of like managed by the Futureverse or whatever it might be until they get to the point of, taking like the ownership of that wallet or moving things out of that custodial wallet into a non-custodial wallet. And I'm just wondering if that's kind of like directionally kind of correct in that every Futureverse account that's like getting these packs and like has the players and will be playing the FIFA AI game, like technically does have a wallet. It's just not something that they are kind of exposed to, like the seed phrase and like all of that kind of stuff yet, until again they get to the point where they will take over. And I'm just wondering if that's kind of directionally the experience that we're talking about.
Yeah, so there's kind of different levels to the experience, and I don't think everybody in the world for every use case is going to have a self-custodial wallet. I don't think that's going to be necessary for
I totally
at all times.
Some people may just stay custodial the whole time, right?
Yeah, and that's fine. And you need to I know it's all nice being a maxi on things, but you need to know the reality that not everybody wants to use things the same way that you do. So you have to account for the way that people actually want to use technology. And I think we're going to see a slow drive to people taking self-custody, but we've got to have the tools to allow that to happen naturally. We're not going to go tomorrow and force everybody to make private keys and get up to speed with how to manage a self-custody wallet. And it has to be a journey. It has to be a journey where people are feel comfortably incentivized to go on that journey. So they play a game and they can just play it like a regular game, but they notice all their mates are selling and trading their say it's an FPS, their guns on a marketplace, all the rare drops that they're getting from winning matches. Their mates are able to sell them and they're not. And they're like, oh, I want to do that. So the next step is they've got incentive to learn out how to take custody of an asset and a wallet and manage those things that they need to do that in order to have that piece of functionality, rather than the approach of shoving it down their throats and saying, you need this, you want this, and then getting the resistance that we're seeing, particularly in the gaming space, around that kind of approach.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Yeah, I think that makes sense, and it seems to be like kind of more common with like some of the games that have shipped, that again, they make that custodial wallet, and then later on, who knows what happens really, but at least the inventory, etc., is like still a blockchain wallet, not like a database that no one can touch and no one can understand.
Yeah.
So I guess
and there's another point to that, is that we're also working on making the self custody wallets a better user experience as well, because at the moment it's shit. Yeah.
There's a few that are already.
The whole
most are bad.
Yeah, and the whole gas thing is something that's difficult for people to get their head around. So we're eliminating that problem on the Root network with the multi-gas token economy, and a whole bunch of other quality of life improvements that make, even when you do get to that stage of self-custody, make that whole experience significantly less painful than it currently is. I get annoyed. I know technology relatively well, and I get annoyed with what the user experience currently is. One could say I'm a power user.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me I got killed in the Doodles like gas war, like lost like $1,000 or something. So,
oh god,
yeah, awful. I guess my last question was just again regarding like we already touched on it on the AMA last time, where for the new characters, obviously they have brains, but we're not kind of exposing the idea that they have brains to the users, again, to kind of keep it like simple. But then those brains have to come from the protocol, and that, people will have the opportunity to use Asto Energy to kind of buy liquidity, to kind of take part in that. And I guess I'm just kind of not 100% clear. Like, I know ASM is a protocol, and like the brains have to come from the protocol in some regard, but I guess I don't like make the clear connection between like ASM is like creating a bunch of these brains based on their AE, like the AE that the treasury manages, and then that is kind of what's being used, and then you're offering us an opportunity to get liquidity with our AE as well. I'm just like wondering if there's like a simple way to think about it, because I get like confused thinking about it.
Yeah, so you're right, the brains do have to come from the protocol, and the protocol has to be self-sustaining without Alter State Machine, the company, being involved. The protocol has to be truly decentralized. So we need to set it up in a way that these sorts of things can happen in a decentralized manner. And the way it's working for that, we're setting up this protocol mechanic initially, and they're down the track that DAO can vote to change this if it's not appropriate, but we have to bootstrap things and get them set up. is that we have a couple of options. Either people submit their ASTO energy to a pool to be taken up by a project, and whenever somebody buys an item from that project with, say, their credit card, that gets converted into USDC and ASTO tokens, and then paid out to the first person in the queue that's committed to that pool. Or there's the other way around, where a project comes and says, I want 100,000 brains, and here's $500,000. So every time, and chucks that in a pool, and then people can just come and claim the LP tokens out of that. So there's a few approaches that the protocol could take, depending on what the use case is, because there will be sort of live service use cases, and then purchase in advance use cases that need to be taken into consideration. But it should be all completely managed, decentralized, and available to the protocol as and when is needed.
Awesome. Yeah.
Did that help at all?
Yeah. No, that makes more sense to me. That, like, it's kind of like hey, we need to have like the liquidity on the other side of like the credit card, if that makes sense. So like everyone pile in if you want to get a part of that, or don't, or whatever you want. Yeah. I think it makes a bit more sense, like those two kind of examples for sure. Cause I was just trying to like wrap my head around it before, and I'm like, I don't really get how that works, but I think that's more clear. Like, again, understanding that every dollar spent by a user with a credit card will have to kind of like have the kind of equal and opposite reaction, I guess, is one way to think about it. But anyway, that's all I had to say. But thanks again for taking questions, and yeah, keep pushing. Excited.
Good.
Thanks, Vulture.
Thanks, man. I think it's good to note that. So the reason why we're rewarding in LP tokens is because they're the fastest way to get ASTO token. Also, it helps support the health of the token. So if people are just holding on to them to generate more ASTO energy, then that makes for a healthy token. The alternative is that we could just give straight USDC, but it is not as good for the protocol to do that.
Yep, totally. A couple of Discord questions here, and then we'll jump to people on the stage. Someone's asking, can you ask what is the minimum ASTO energy required to play per game? And then if we can use AFA players in-game while it is staked for reverse claim. I don't think we need ASTO energy to play the game, necessarily. Nope. And I don't think that it'll matter if they're quote-unquote staked, because I think it's like passive staking in that sense, where like it's just a claim portal, where it'll know if it's been claimed or not and how long that time frame is. Is that correct?
So you won't be using it anyway. So you can't, and ASTO energy can't be staked. You can't stake ASTO you can't use ASTO that is staked, if that's the question.
They're asking about the AFA players for the reverse claim on the second part, I guess.
So AFA players, so we might be simplifying that claim actually, to make it easier on people, because of the compressed time frames. You won't be able to use AFA players in the FIFA game, but you will be able to use them obviously in AFA.
Sweet.
And we're probably simplifying that All Stars claim, and it might not include staking.
Cool. Yeah, looking forward to seeing updates on that. Another question real quick is, someone's asking, how complex was it to work with FIFA to give everyone an idea of how big of an organization it is, and if there's any specific team that you're working with at FIFA, if you can speak on that.
Honestly, surprisingly good. I mean, we'd had experience working with big sort of multi-billion-dollar organizations previously, with ABG, for example, and other large brands we haven't announced yet. So it wasn't our first sort of rodeo in this space, and of course the team is a very experienced team outside of just this project. But FIFA has been surprisingly amazing to work with, considering the size of their organization. They are relatively quick to respond. They've been pretty firm and well communicated the things that we need to do and the things that we can't change, and very flexible on the things that we've needed to change. So I've actually really enjoyed the interaction with them. We've worked directly with the exec team for a lot of this, and the management team for the ongoing relationship they've put in place has been awesome. So I've been really, really happy with this relationship so far, and hopefully we get to continue it further down the track.
Awesome. If anybody is paying attention to the FIFA World Cup AI League Discord, there has been a trailer dropped in there, so I'll pin that to the top if it gets tweeted, and we'll get some eyeballs on that. I think we've got Boomer, Bildo, and Kona. We'll go in that order. Boomer, what's up? How's it going? Congrats on the silver fluff, by the way.
Thank you, GM. I had a quick question, David, on Gen 2 brains, and you actually touched on it a little bit around if another studio wanted to make a purchase of 100K brains and they pay 500K, and you guys help kind of facilitate that. Is there any plans for other studios if they didn't go Gen 2 brains but went more of these, I don't know what you guys are calling like the FIFA brains, but as that kind of Gen 3 almost like brain, is there plans to integrate studios in that capacity where maybe they don't know if they want to drop $500,000 on brains because they don't fully understand or know how the game design might work? Like, are you guys looking at other ways to partner with studios in that sense, or is that mostly just a top of funnel, get people on the Root network and bring them into the fold that way?
Yeah, so I think we already kind of set a precedent with this really early on with the thingies, because the thingies and the FIFA brains, FIFA characters, essentially are the same specification, where the brain is tied into the character itself. So I think we're just expanding on that now and exploring how that works with the FIFA partnership, and in the future we can sort of expand on how we, I guess you could kind of call them a Gen 3 or something. What is it? A thingy spec brain. And we could expand on how the protocol manages those in the future in a more formal way. At the moment, it's just been kind of ad hoc to satisfy the use cases that we've got. But it's starting to shake out that that we might have multiple kinds of specifications and use cases for brains that we need to be able to think about, and the protocol needs to account for.
Yeah, I think FIFA is the testing ground for bringing large partnership in and actually attaching some form of AI to it that I think could take off, and even bring in larger studios from the gaming side to like dip their toe in. So I think that's super interesting. One more question on Gen 2s. Like, I know that the community and DAO is going to get spun up to kind of vote on what certain quadrants of the brain do what. How does that extend over to other studios? Like, how much on the game design standpoint, how much flexibility will they have with those?
So they've got ultimate flexibility, so they can choose what they want, but it doesn't make sense for them to deviate too far from what the recommendation is, because the whole point is to get that consistent experience from between use cases. and people, when people start to be familiar with what regions of the brains are responsible for what things, they can start to predict, which brains will be good at which use cases. So I'd say that the studios are highly incentivized to follow the guidelines that are set out by the community, but if they need to change things slightly for game balancing reasons, they have the freedom to do so.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just kind of thinking, like, what if everything wasn't even slotted to a spot? Like designing a game and I only need 12 regions versus 16. What the other way, if I need 20 regions and there's only 16, like some of those will get combined then. That's an easier one than not, but
yeah, I wouldn't think of it in regions, because the size of the filters that you're choosing from can be as big or as small as possible. The regions, that there aren't actually specific regions, to be honest. So you could make strength just be one single square on the genome matrix if you wanted to, and that would lead you to have a very high peaks and low values in your distribution curve. Or you could make it the entire genome matrix. In theory, the filter size could be every square on the genome, the average of every square, and that would lead to a much smoother distribution curve. You wouldn't have such high peaks and low valleys. So you kind of tune things as a studio as to what kind of outcome you want. So if you want strength to be, people to be, some characters, a large amount of characters to be really strong and a large amount of characters to be really weak, then you would reduce that filter size down, which would create a much peakier distribution curve. But if you wanted everybody to have, relatively even amount of strength across the board, then you would pump that up to be quite a large area, so maybe 20 squares. You take 20 squares maybe, and that would give you a much flatter distribution curve, so everybody comes out relatively even. So we're going to enable that flexibility in the model for studios to be able to balance their games correctly.
Cheers. Thanks for your time. Thanks, Max, for hosting.
Thank you.
We'll go to Bildo.
Hey, thank you guys. As always, so I'm Max. I appreciate you hosting these. Always super informative. My question, I guess, is kind of revolved around with the talks of different types of training for AI. If there's any AI that will be kind of participating in the prediction process, and if so, how would that kind of evolve based on, one, community engagement and how much data it gets from the community doing the voting, and then two, based on unforeseen circumstances and upsets happening that nobody kind of saw, how it would learn and evolve?
I'm not going to get too much into this, but I will say we have some very close friends to the project who are world-class experts at sports prediction models, and then just sort of leave it at that, and say watch this space.
Okay.
It's one of those if you know kind of scenarios.
Got it. Okay. Well, I think that answers my question enough, I guess. Thank you for your time. I always appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, mate.
Awesome. We'll go Kona, then Tybo.
All right. Thanks. Congrats. Excited for the launch here. Changing gears a little bit, you were talking earlier about shit experiences, and I was playing around trying to get my party bear to do anything, and got into the circles of Blender hell. And I got to thinking, there aren't that many things like I want to do with it. Blender does everything, but it's a professional tool. And I was partly thinking it would be nice to have a simple thing where I can simply talk to the computer and have it do certain things. You have a book of emotes, you have various environments, and you can drag and drop if you need to. And then I got to thinking, well, why do it in there, as potentially doing something in the actual Futureverse Third Kingdom environment? It would be great to tell my avatar to go do something, put in a thing, tell it to start recording and say, go up and give MetaBlocks a flying kick to the head and record that whole thing. And I know it's been generally talked about we don't want it to be a dead world, that you're going to need NPCs. And so, you've talked a lot and over many of these AMAs about all the games, but not so much around the, let's say, environmental richness. So I don't know what you can say in that direction, but I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, it is a massive and really super fascinating area of research that we're currently participating in, alongside 3D generative objects as well, which are super important. So building blocks of these massive open metaverse spaces. So those are two big areas that we're focusing on right now in the research and development team. We've got some prototypes around generative animations. It's not, as a technology, not quite there yet, but it is progressing pretty well. As far as sort of sandbox environments where people can come in and play around in, that's really cool idea. I think the dev team, so I think Vinny built a little sandbox environment for All Stars, kind of what you're describing, without the whole AI stuff, which is really cool. That we might, if we can find some time, release out to the community to play around with. Something like that for the party viewers would be cool as well. In FLUFs, obviously.
I mean, the ACEs, because I remember back when we got all the models released, I tried to play with Sudden and couldn't even get it to merge into the one thing. And I'm like, it would be nice to be able to do stuff. I mean, obviously it's not essential, but it certainly helps with getting stuff out there. The other question I had is around, we've obviously splicing for Genesis brains has always been on the roadmap. I hadn't really thought about the bounds of that. I assume that will be only for ASM built / developed projects, as opposed to a third party using the protocol.
So splicing is only for Genesis brains.
Right, but I'm saying and I guess Genesis brains will only be used in ASM developed activities, not in a third party using the ASM protocol.
No, yep, they'll be for everything.
Okay, so even though that, okay, because I figured that may be something they have to account for in an environment where, I'm developing that, I want people to train things, and by the way, these guys can come in and create some pre-trained brains once it's going on. I guess that's just part of the package.
Yeah, as for any genome spec compatible environment, the Genesis brains are compatible with.
Okay. Okay, not just compatible, but able to splice that training.
Able to splice.
Okay,
yeah.
That's pretty awesome. And then finally, I'd always describe things as an integrated brain, so I don't know if that's helpful in terminology.
Yeah, we do. I don't think we've got an official term for it. I think we've just been calling it sort of thingy spec. But it might pay to have one of those sort of questionnaires go out to the community and say what should we call this specific specification.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to Tybo. And David, I know we're at the top of the hour here, so just let us know if you need a dip.
Let me just quickly check. 1 second. I am late for another meeting, so I'll take one more question.
Sweet. Tybo, shoot.
No pressure. I was going to ask two, but I guess I'll ask one. I really love the revealing of the map, and as we mine more brains. But there was a comment that Aaron made about Metaverse land. Is there anything you could comment on that at all? Just out of curiosity.
In regards to Illyria and the discovery of the map.
And how it relates to Gen 2 brains being part of intelligent metaverse land is what Aaron said.
Right. Okay. What can I specifically say about that? I would probably want to leave this one up to Aaron, to be honest. because it involves some much bigger Futureverse level revelations that are yet to come out.
Yes, no need to go further.
Thank you.
Sounds exciting.
David, you want to wrap it up and then head out?
Yeah, that'd be great. Just want to say thanks, guys, for putting on these spaces. I love to jump on whenever I can. I had some really awesome questions today, and super looking forward to the next one. I can find some time to do.
Thank you, David, and for everyone else listening, we'll continue to have the space open for a bit, and we can discuss whatever you guys want to. So everyone. Please give them a heart sign for David, I guess.
Thanks for coming, David.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you making time. See you next time.
All right.
If you want to go ahead and ask your other question to Tybo, we can maybe.
Yeah, let's do that.
Chat about it. Why not?
I was going to ask a simple question because I missed half the Twitter space, so I didn't know it was going to be asked. But are the FIFA characters going to be interoperable with other games?
Not to my knowledge right now, but the possibility in the future, I will say, probably exists. But I haven't heard of anything like that.
What about SS playable metaverse characters?
Probably same answer.
Cool, so no worries.
See, we had Mo Meta Music come up while David was on stage. Don't know if you had a question or just...
I do. Hey guys, how you doing? I do have a question, but it's more around, with word of mouth being the best form of marketing, and definitely it being up to all of us to help bring people in, especially using this new FIFA format predictions game. I'm just trying to get my head around, beyond mentioning to my friends the website and playing the predictions game, what other incentives there are for them to get involved with it. Obviously, I don't want to mention Web3 or crypto at all at the moment, but as I'm introducing it to my friends, saying, hey, sign up for the website, play against me in this predictions game, David was mentioning that as an incentive at the end of it, when that next part of the game goes live, you're going to get an avatar or potentially a full team. What more do we know about that? Because I really want to be able to try and say, these are the reasons why you might want to get involved in it beyond just the predictions.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's actually a lot of prizes up for grabs. I don't know if you've had a chance to see them. They are on the AI League website, but there's some pretty phenomenal grand prizes, and I think they might be getting better here shortly. You'll hear about that probably in the next day or so.
100 all let you get for team, you get the free access, quote unquote, to the AI League, and you get the 4 players, and then they can play in the league after the fact. But I think you do need to place fairly high, or maybe not fairly high, but I think they have maybe 1,000 packs that are up for grabs, and if you're in the top 1,000, you get the pack. I think I was reading that in the subsection of prizes. So then that's how you get into the game after the fact, is you either win one of those, or it goes you had a good run, you didn't win anything, but maybe buy a pack. I think that's how it's going to work, but I'm not sure 100%.
Right. I know for a lot of my friends who are already in Web3, even if they're not part of the Futureverse or don't get it, by just being able to participate and be eligible for stuff, they're going to be an easy sell. But I'm really looking for that soft sell to my friends who want nothing to do with Web3 but love football. So if I can kind of just get some sort of hook to bring them in, which is beyond, I say, incentivized by Web3 or digital assets, that's the kind of hook I'm looking for. But I'll just keep researching and looking in the space, and I'll see if other ways to bring them in.
Hey Mo, I wanted to ask a question. Are they gamers at all? Your friends?
Yeah, look, I'm nearly 50, and all my mates sort of grew up like the guys have often said with Amiga 500s. We're all gamers at heart, but with young families, we just don't really have the time. And it's more about if a game is playable on a phone, a mobile device and can be played like while hiding from your children in the toilet, then yes, that is a possibility. But continue.
I was just gonna say, like, if they have kids, that's something that they can get their kids involved with, because it seems like a kid-friendly type of game. So, auto battle is a really up-and-coming genre where you don't necessarily play the game, but you strategically put things in place to outplay your opponent. So I guess if they're interested in the gaming side, or they can get their kids involved, hey, like, this is a prediction game, you can win some cool prizes, but then there's this AI auto battler soccer game that you can play. It's just something that I feel like you can palm that onto their kids if they want to. And I guess a question to you, Brian, is creating an account with the AI League actually creating a root network account, or does that come later?
Actually, I think signing up for the prediction game does.
So as soon as you sign up and put your email, you've just created an account on the root network. Is that what my understanding?
That's my understanding. Yes.
Cool.
Awesome. I think Aaron said that on the last AMA, if I'm not mistaken.
I just wanted to just double check, because you don't want to spread information that's not 100% factual. But cool, thank you for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy thinking that there's literally already accounts and like people using root network, and a lot of these things that we've been looking forward to for a while. So it's a very exciting time.
Just to finish off, I think the goal of FIFA partnering with this game is more like an appetizer or like a tease to get people, I guess, open to the idea of ownership and playing with AI. But I guess it's just the first of many iterations, and not everyone's not always going to be involved with every single thing that gets released, but there's going to be definitely more eyes on this project because of this, though.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm looking at the opportunity to open up some more banter with my mates who I don't catch up with enough. And it seems like this is an opportunity, like while the FIFA World Cup is on, get this prediction game going and get that banter going as well. So any opportunity to sort of have IRL and Web3 together, I'm all for it. Anyway, that was my question. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, and I like the point about bringing your kids into it too, and like just having an easy, fun, like accessible mobile game experience here, hopefully in December. It should be pretty sweet. So it's a cool way to get people involved without them really knowing that they're using NFTs. Digital collectibles, digital assets. I've pinned the trailer to the top here, so everybody be sure to go give that some love. Share with your friends.
That's a really well done trailer. I love it. Are we gonna see gameplay soon at all? Like, just to see how they might battle? Or is that a bit further down?
I haven't heard anything recently. I would guess it's probably a little bit closer to game time.
Yeah, I think I want to push the prediction.
The trailer is just so British, or like the guy doing the voiceover.
It's perfect fit. That's
probably targeting like the UK the most, I would imagine.
It just reminds me of, like, if you're ever involved with some sort of soccer, like hearing an English accent is like, it just seems like a given.
Thor, you joined on stage somewhat recently. Do you have anything you want to talk about?
Oh yeah, I hopped back up on just because everybody was asking David questions. Nobody was asking Brian any questions. So I was just gonna...
Let's ask Brian some questions.
I mean, I was thinking about like his job, and I mean, it's fun and games, and like we're all doing this, and it's tremendous. But when you take a full-time position, like that's on your resume now. And although we've got insane conviction, there's a little bit of risk in that, being associated with something like this. I'm obviously not throwing FUD at ASM. It's a tremendous opportunity. I love it, but I mean, certainly that had to go through your head. Like, what'd you think about that? Because it's not just a slam dunk. Like, yeah, I'm gonna jump into Web3 all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I've worked at quite a few startups throughout my career, so I'm kind of used to that. I kind of love the atmosphere and the chaos of it all. There's kind of beauty in the chaos. It's never easy, but I think building things from scratch, not that I have been with the team from scratch, but there's just something so rewarding about it. And I think it's doing it for something like this is extra special because, I think it's very important given what will be like the prevalence of AI in the future that we have something like this. I'm sure like many of you who are here, I don't want, the 50-some-year-old white guys at Google deciding the future of AI for me. I think we've kind of seen some of the repercussions of that with social media and how all that works. So yeah, I don't view it as a risk. I think it's an opportunity, and I think it's a lot of fun for me personally.
Yeah, I kind of have the same sentiment as well personally because I don't know. I think that if you're talking from like a resume standpoint, if someone were to see that on your resume, I think it would almost intrigue them more and think that you're you're kind of on the cutting edge of things. You're willing to take risks for things that you believe in type person. So I don't know. I think that's valuable as well.
Yeah. I hope certainly my comments are not made to make anybody feel bad or uncertain about their future career aspirations. I mean, it's tremendous to be able to show something so early on, but it's certainly going to be
it's got to pick your winners, pick your potential winners, I should say.
It's going to lead to interesting conversations. There's more than just when you meet up with family members or whatnot or friends. It's one thing to say, yeah, I like Bitcoin and Asto, and it's another to say that I'm leaving the financial system and I'm joining this decentralized network that's going to change the world. So it's amazing.
Can always do off your resume next time around you're looking for a job if you need to.
May I just jump in and add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the level of communication within this community is incredible. Like with so much uncertainty and so many communities not sure how much exposure they had to FTX and whatever else is going on, the information that comes down from the team just constantly reassuring us with the CEOs, the founders, giving us up-to-date details of exactly everything they're building, what's working, what isn't, just makes me feel so much more relaxed about being in this space compared to a lot of the other Discords I'm on where everyone's still saying when and not getting any answers. And I know these teams are building hard behind the scenes and they're really busy, but for anyone who's part of the Futureverse community like you guys are up here, it's just by having this communication open and giving us so much information, it makes it a far more inclusive, enjoyable, community to be a part of. So I really appreciate that. So please just keep that communication coming. I love it.
Yeah, I feel like that was something that made me immediately understand like what was going on like here, that there was a lot going on under the hood, because like being a part of like tech or whatever, everyone, like I think a lot of people misunderstand like how easy or hard it is to like build like tech products. And a lot of people kind of just go like, yeah, okay, I like drew a picture, now tell me when it's done. And then they just kind of sit and wait for it to be done. But really there's so much nuance and like communication and updates and like, trade-offs and prioritization that like all of that is happening at once. And just the level of communication that they've been able to keep up like since I've entered the space, which has been like over a year now, or like entered the kind of community. It just like, it really shows that there's like a lot of like seasoned, experienced people who have made a lot of like tech products in their lives, because this is how like the best like project managers and like this is how they run themselves like within companies. Like everyone who is a part of the project or whatever always knows what's getting updated, and you might be like strung along for a little bit, being like, oh, it's been a long time since I've had an update, but then that update comes and you're like, wow, why did I ever doubt them? And yeah, I think it's just like they're excellent operators for sure.
Yeah, and seeing that from the inside has given me a lot of confidence, and just knowing how much people care really and how passionate everybody is for what we're working on, I think is commendable, and keeps me excited and just more and more ambitious by the day, I feel like.
Yeah,
so.
I totally agree with that. Like, I think the biggest takeaway for me is it's like Aaron isn't trying to sell us something. He's talking about his passion and experience and ability to want to change the world with this technology, and then seeing his brothers like alongside him on that journey, and then you got the community like 100% on board and backing them. It's like one of the funnest places to be when you feel like you're part of history, and you look at like centrality, and you start digging deep into this whole ecosystem that Aaron and his brothers have been building. It's just, where else would you rather be when it comes to like an NFT project? And I look at other projects and I just can't, like, well, why would I put my money in there when I have like so much faith and so much conviction in the Futureverse ecosystem? It's just really, I don't know, it baffles me that more people don't know about it, but that will change, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, and I think to Somnium's point, like I was obviously on the side of most of you up until very recently, and even in just the last week, like it's pretty epic to just watch this all unfold behind the scenes. And I could assure you that the teams working on this are absolutely incredible. I mean, I've had the privilege to work with some really good teams, and these guys are top notch. So I think we're in pretty good hands.
Yeah, and just, I know you didn't mean it like that, Tybo, but in addition to Aaron and his brothers, there's a lot of other leadership positions that are filled by other people that are very strong, have very strong credentials, or have been on this team for a long time doing God's work. And just a big shout out to the team of over 300 people, all the way up from the executives that are making the highest level decisions to those in the middle and those on the doing the groundwork. So big shout out. If anyone, well, I'm sure there are people that are on the stage and people that are in the audience that are on staff, and big thanks to everyone for your hard work up to now and moving forward as well. So big thanks to everybody.
I mean, big shout out to the whole community. I mean, you guys are epic to work with and work around. I mean, it's just like with community, obviously there's absolutely nothing. So I think just as much credit goes to the community as does the team.
And I just wanted to give a shout out to Futureverse Pod, who I can see down there in the audience, man. That information you're putting out, I know how hard it is to put those together and the time and effort that goes into it. So thank you so much for the work you do, because that's informing so many people. I'm sharing it all the time. Keep it up, brother. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Gary. He's been doing some awesome work. Feel free to hop up if you want as well.
Yeah, in a time where there's a lot of question marks about the state of things in the cryptocurrency space and in the NFT space as well. I mean, the fact that we have so many things going on in this community, and the fact that we're able to be building as many platforms as we are building, there's just so many lines of work being done by different groups affiliated with the Futureverse. And I don't know exactly how many there are. We know about the things that they tell us, and that is a very substantial amount, and we assume that there's probably more that they haven't told us. So, I mean, there's large-scale creation going on, and we're not. It's very difficult to tell if that is happening in other places compared to how transparent it is here. And I know that a lot of details about specific items are not transparent and are intentionally not given to the community, but the amount of things that are given is enough to outpace every other NFT project that I have seen. So big ups for that.
Does anyone have any idea what they're going to do with their AE now? I felt like I was going to wait till the end and then buy a ton of brains. And now I'm like, whoa, I can just get more LP. How does that, like, I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Would this approach make sense? Like, you determine how many brains you think you need for the use cases you think you need brains for. So, for example, making sure that all of your AFA characters have a brain. I think it's much farther out when we see brains being used for non-player characters in like a metaverse type setting, like using a brain for your FLUF or your party bear, for example, to be able to do non-player character type of assignments in a FLUF World metaverse. I feel like that's still very far out, or pretty far out. So I don't know if you want to allocate some of your AE towards that. Some of your AE towards mining brains for that purpose, given how far out it is. And then also, if you want to play the next Legends or Atom, two of the other known games being built, but we, again, are not sure about the timeline for when a brain would be utilized for that. But anyway, you decide how much brains you want, and then with the rest of your AE, maybe you want to use it for LP tokens, or I don't know, maybe you want to have extra brains, or I don't know.
I mean, exactly. I have a thought on the matter. It comes down to, do you feel that you could sell a Gen 2 brain for more, or do you feel like the LP token that you'll get from consuming your Asta energy is going to be worth more? And if you think about
that, arbitragers will make it so that it probably is a similar amount.
Well, let's say you won't know how much like a brain can go for until you really get like a mad rush on like a game of some kind where it's just like everyone's all of a sudden buying brains. And if you did decide to not buy any LP and just wait for the rush, then you could just like dump the brains. But I don't know. It's like, obviously in
a scenario where that happens, wouldn't a lot of people also need AE, or other people be speculating that if there's this many users joining a game, let's buy Asto because that's the currency that is more fungible than
well, how much does an AFA character, sorry, an ASM brain Gen 2 cost, and how much do you think a FIFA character is going to cost when you're going to need 4 of them? How much are they going to make people pay? $20 for 4 or $80 for 4? Like when we think about mobile gaming or simple games, they don't want it to be too excessively expensive. So I was thinking more $5 per character. And if a brain is worth more than $5, then I would be mining and selling brains with the added bonus of potentially getting an ascended brain. But that's just my current thought process on the matter.
I really like the positive virtuous cycle of LP that gets you more LP that you stake to get more LP. I mean, just that sounds beautiful.
It's just whether or not you could sell Gen 2 brains and then convert that into Asto and USDC and get a larger portion of an LP.
When the numbers come out, we'll do all the math. We'll pull out the Excel. We'll do all the fancy stuff, and it'll be nice and fun. But at the end of the day, if you're asking me right now, it's nothing sounds more fun than getting your LP to make more LP to put in to make more LP. You know, it's just, I don't know. That sounds more fun.
Virtuous cycle.
Yeah, well, these are decisions that everyone can make on their own. we can.
Well, yeah, it's also like great game theory that we're all sitting here being like, "Who the fuck knows?" Like,
yeah, right. We can discuss the pros and cons of each. Being like, if you have the brains, that's non-fungible and not as liquid as if you had an LP token, for example, which you can also instantly cash out for any type of currency.
When you sell your AE for LP, you're helping out the platform in two ways. You're enabling Gen 2 brains to go to this new game community members, right? And you're getting more LP, which is going into the hands of people who already have it staked. So it's probably mostly going to get staked again. And you're helping stabilize the token price. I mean, it's just great.
Yeah, I do think that everybody should be making decisions, not thinking about their situation, not thinking about, well, if I do this, this is better for the platform. I don't think that's a good way for individuals to go about it. Don't try to be too altruistic. Think about yourself first, because that's in general what's going to happen. And if you don't put yourself first and you don't think about the impact for you and you only, you're putting yourself at a relative disadvantage. And I think this team is smart enough and wise enough to create incentives that when people are doing that and thinking for themselves, that will result in the intended target that the team wants to achieve. So I encourage people to think about yourself when making decisions and not to make decisions based on what you think is best for the protocol. Apparently that killed the vibe.
I mean, I think it's good advice.
I don't know if this is... Sorry, I was just going to say, I don't know if this is AI related, but I saw some pictures of some buzzies at one stage there. Has anyone got any thoughts on that? Those graphics looked incredible.
Yeah, that I've seen some buzzy things maybe, and yeah, those are very exciting. Also, flufflets are so cute.
Do buzzies have tennis rackets instead of wings?
I don't think so. I feel like that was maybe just a certain type of buzzy. I feel like they might have all types of different.
Are they released? What buzzies look like?
There's been leaks.
There was a picture.
There's one of many types. The one type that was released looks robotic, like a robo thingy.
But to your point, Max, regarding the tennis rackets for wings, tennis rackets have those stabilizer things you put at the base of them to stop vibration. And that's what the Buzzies wings had. So they did very much look like tennis rackets, bro. You're not wrong.
Sweet as. We
I
usually
haven't been in the FLUF Discord in forever. I just only go to ASM.
We usually like to end these spaces at around 8:45. So let's say we got 11 more minutes. So if anyone wanted to share any thoughts but hadn't joined the stage yet, now would be a great time to do that. And we'll start to wrap things up pretty soon. Magic Mountain Bear, is there anything we haven't gone over that you thought maybe we would or maybe we should?
Not off the top of my head, no. Something to know about the prediction experience is you have to get your predictions locked in 10 minutes before the game, because once that 10-minute mark hits before kickoff, it'll shut down. And then I think each new round of predictions will go up the day before the round of games that day. So just kind of be sure to get all of your predictions in sooner rather than later, because if you wait last minute, it might not count.
Gotcha. And in that trailer you just posted, it said $100,000 in prizes, and you even alluded that maybe that would get a step up. is there like a list of prizes somewhere where the audience can, or anyone that is interested can see?
Yeah, you can go on the leaderboards page on the FIFA World Cup AI League website. And if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see the prizes, and there's actually a little info icon. And if you click that, you can kind of click around and see the prizes for each round and how that will all work.
I think Adam Car Club is also running a competition, maybe out of their Discord for the FIFA World Cup. I think they have a channel in their Discord where you just tweet about it, and you have to add your username in the tweet, and Mo will add you to the Adam Car Club sort of like league competition, and then I think whoever wins out of that will maybe get a prize or something. So be sure to check that out. Thor, you had your hand up. What's up?
I just thought it'd be cool that before the World Cup starts, we're concluding the spaces, go around the horn, say who you think is going to win the World Cup. I think I'll go with Argentina.
Ooh, I'm an Argentina fan too. Got to get Messi his first cup before he retires.
I guess I'll go Brazil just to be an opposition here. But Brian, I'm gonna have to make you put on the US role in the Discord.
Apparently, whoever won the World Cup last time always loses out in the group stage in the next one. So don't go for the previous winner. It's bad luck.
I think I also read somewhere, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure I read that the number one team going into each World Cup hasn't won before. So that would be Brazil for this year. So we'll see if they can break that streak.
I think Canada's going to surprise everyone and win. Even though we've never scored a game in the World Cup ever. Or scored a goal in the World Cup.
Did anybody else pull a SOM and actually vote for Qatar to win in the first round?
No.
I think some people did for the home advantage. I posted something in the FIFA Discord. There's like a research study done by a university that said in football about I think home teams win 60 to 70% of the time, depending on what country they're in. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Not specifically for the World Cup.
I just figured they have to make it past at least the first round, right? I mean, I don't know much about soccer, football, whatever you want to call it.
No, they're not going to make it past the group stage. But there's a good resource for everybody if you want to check it out. The Telegram. It's a UK-based, I don't know what you call newspapers anymore, online. It's a news organization, we'll call it. And they put out a YouTube that polled a whole bunch of different professional athletes, professional soccer players, and got what they thought were going to win the World Cup. So that's a pretty good expert panel to pull from. If you're questioning who should you click on that button, might give you a little guidance.
I'm going to quickly read off some of the prizes and then let's hear from PTC Hornet. For the group stage, 300 AI League game passes. So it seems that the real prizes that involve things outside of the AI game are mostly in the tournament part of the game. So for the round of 16, 200 Adidas ALRIHLA balls, like a soccer ball, 200 branded soccer balls for the FIFA World Cup, as well as 200 league game passes for the AI League. And then for the quarterfinals, $100 gift cards for Adidas. I wonder if that means Adidas is involved in this in one way or another as well. That's $10,000 right there.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the person who wins is probably going to have some insane props that hit. Because there's definitely a lot more points involved in that.
Yeah, and each determination of a winning is for each round, right? As opposed to the whole thing. So if you don't do well at first, in the next round you get to start from scratch. Is that right, Magic Mountain Bear?
I'm sorry, I cut out there. What was that?
each determination of prizes starts and ends for each round. So the group stage is 1, and then if you don't do well in the group stage, that's fine. You start from scratch on the round of 16. So you kind of can start over and do well, even if you get off to a bad start. Well, I'm just gonna assume that's correct.
Sorry, I was saying, I didn't realize I was on mute. I was saying I don't want to comment because I'm not 100% sure. I'm still kind of learning things as I go, to be completely honest. But I think that the main prizes are. Let me see if I can get clarity here. I thought that the main prizes were like the global prizes were like a grand total of the best.
Oh, cumulative, and it just ends at each.
Yeah, well, there'll be different prizes throughout. So, like, you have 3 leaderboards.
Okay.
Your rivals leaderboard everyone will be broken into groups of 100, and that's just kind of based on when you sign up. So, if you signed up at the beginning, the first 100 people will be in a group, and so on. And then you can win prizes within that rivals group. So, like, all the accessory rewards you see there will be per group. So everyone in that group will win accessories, but the top 40 will get better accessories, and the top 10 will get even better or more rare, I should say, throughout. So there'll be prizes for everyone, but the grand prizes I thought were aggregate, and I think like each round you predict is an entry into that. But I'd have to confirm for sure on that one.
Gotcha. Anyway, there are some pretty nice prizes, so I think that's a good way to get people involved, and the URL to do it is FIFA World Cup AI League.com/leaderboard, and then / well, you can navigate from there too.
Yep, and I'll point out one more thing. If you go into the support, so if you go to the menu at the top right that says more and hit support, there's a rewards and prizes section that kind of lists everything in more detail with more information.
Great. Awesome. PCC Hornet.
Hey guys, I've been enjoying listening. I came in late. I came in around 7:50, so I missed most of David's awesomeness. I had a question. Maybe he covered it. Maybe someone asked. Maybe someone didn't ask. Maybe there's opinions. But I've been thinking about, we need as many Gen 2 brains as possible going forward because we're creating all these new use cases. FIFA solved it by having the brain interlinked within the character, so they don't have to go to the Gen 2 marketplace. But assuming, we do need all of these hundreds of thousands or whatever the number is brains, Gen 2 brains going forward, we're generating AE to mine those, and we're doing that actively. But now we've got 2 uses for AE. We've got mining brains, which we've been doing, and now we have a new use, which is what Thor characterizes. You could create this perpetual loop of LP tokens, deploying your AE into that avenue. So that pathway diverts AE away from Gen 2 mining, and so whatever direction the team envisioned for Gen 2 brain production is being now winnowed down as people go to the LP token route with their AE energy away from Gen 2 mining, which understandably would mean that we're creating less Gen 2 brains going forward. So I'm just trying to figure out, how do you get to the Gen 2 numbers you need if we've got this other pathway draining away Asto energy?
The game theory is too much, I swear. It's just too many things to think about. It's like so hard to know. Because I think you're right, though. Like, they were preparing all those brains, right? And really, we haven't seen like all those Gen 2s like sell out in any of the rounds. I thought the first round would sell out because that would technically be when they're like most like scarce, I guess. But that didn't seem to happen. And now it's like adding a different like segment of what you can do with AE at the last second would make you think people would be even more nervous of ripping in like all their AE for Gen 2s. But
there's, even though they are more scarce right now or at the end of the first batch than they would be in the future, it is public knowledge that it is not really going to be a scarce asset, and there will be more of them, and there isn't really a use case for them today, and there's not expected to be a use case for them for several months at minimum, and not significant amounts of use cases for, I don't know, a year, years.
Yeah, but what if they like just don't allow mining like after this end of this round? You know, like they give us like 60 days past the end of the round, and they're like, all right, well, you didn't use your AE, so now you can't mine them. You know what I mean? Like, then it would be really scarce, right? And I mean, I know long term they probably won't be scarce.
That's not a decision that they would make based on the sentiment that they've expressed.
I mean, I think it's all about time frames, right? It's all about time frames, because like they might be like, yeah, okay, we're done Gen 2s for a while now. Like, we will open up the mining more in the future, but for right now, this is our like supply, and that's like what you got to work with.
Right. Yeah, but the idea is to marry supply and then like pace supply based on expected demand, right? So like to the extent that there was an event or a rise in popularity that made the demand go up, there would be incentivized, as well as in the future when they hand it over to a DAO structure, like everyone would be incentivized to allow for more brain production to the extent that people need brains. It's just like
so what I'm trying to figure out is that, you know, they created this new FIFA case for brains. So the FIFA characters are using brains. They're not using Gen 2 brains. They're being deployed with the brain intact, with it woven in. So that creates zero demand for Gen 2 brains. And I understand why they did that. They needed it right away. And they couldn't rely on us, the brain miners, to supply those brains. They wanted a use case to deploy immediately. So they put the brains in the characters and they're deploying it right away. What's going to keep them from doing that going forward, where every new use case, they just put the brain in the character and there's no demand for the Gen 2 brain? Why would I create any more Gen 2 brains if they're just going to create a new game with a brain built in and they're not using the... So it's like they're creating...
The point is, right, that like this is FIFA. This is one of the biggest companies in the world, and it's also the first use case aside from thingy art, but one of the first use case that is designed to attract tens of thousands of people or more than that, right? So because this ecosystem needs to onboard users right now as a primary priority, and because they're dealing with one of the largest organizations in the world where the team sees it as a huge opportunity to get this partnership, then for those reasons and the time frame reason, makes sense for them to do it the way they're doing it. But that doesn't mean that they would be incentivized to do that same setup in the future once the ecosystem, and if the ecosystem gains significant traction and, you know, monthly users.
No, I get it, and I understand that, and I'm not second guessing that direction they're taking. I think it's the right direction with FIFA perfectly, but it's informing what I'm doing, what I'm going to do going forward, and that is I'm buying a lot less brains. The brains that I've mined, I think I've mined 60 brains, and I've sold 50 of them because I don't think there's a future, except for maybe some ascended. There's no future value in Gen 2 brains. I think they've got to keep the price low, so they're going to keep diluting that market to draw people coming in, which makes perfect sense to me. You don't want expensive Gen 2 brains, so they're going to continue to drive that price lower in any way they can. So it kind of makes sense for me to take me personally to take my AE and drive it into LP token, where I know the value going forward. It's more certain.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people are used to NFTs that are designed with fixed supplies, such as the CryptoPunks model or the Bored Ape model, and that's what people are used to. So they don't really take into account the fact that this particular NFT, which is ASM Gen 2 brains, are not that. They are in a potentially infinite supply over the course of an extended period of time, and people just aren't used to that. And I can't tell you if the value of the brains currently is the right value or the wrong value, too high, too low. But I just don't think that people are I don't think all buyers are necessarily taking into account the fact that this is a different kind of NFT in terms of there being a supply curve versus a fixed supply NFT. So
yeah, I agree with that. But I always see it as like Gen 2 brains are for mass adoption and will drive value to the Gen 1 brains due to the fact the benefits Gen 1 brains have in the future, which some people don't see the potential in it. But
well, let's moving to a new topic. And since it is 8:52, I think we should start to wrap things up.
Yeah. I was just saying that Gen 2 brains are just going to drive value to Gen 1 brains, and I see that as a good thing that we have more Gen 2 brains out there, regardless of the price.
Awesome. So I just want to give Magic Mountain Bear a chance for the last word, and then we'll wrap it up. And Somnium, if you can have our closing music ready.
1, 2, 3, ready.
I see Magic Mountain Bear unmuted, but not hearing anything. There we go. Some sounds.
Are we back?
Yes.
We're back.
Sweet. I just wanted to say, I don't want to speak on behalf of anyone, but I know the team all really appreciates all of you guys and all of the effort that you put in on your side. And I think this is going to be really awesome. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on behind the scenes that obviously can't be talked about. But I think next year is going to be pretty epic, and we really appreciate all of you and everything that you all do. So yeah, cheers. Put your bunnies up, put your hearts up, and stop on by the Discord and come say hi.
Thanks so much to you and for David for joining us. Thanks to everyone that listened or is listening on replay. Thanks to everyone that participated. As always, this recording of the Spaces is available on my Twitter account as soon as the Spaces ends. Thanks for coming to our first rebranded show called Down the Rabbit Hole, and we look forward to being back at the same time next week and into the future. 2 weeks ago, or last week, we had a European branded time, which I think was a cool idea, so we might try other times that can work for our European friends in the future, but next week we'll be at our regular time. And thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and maybe consider watching one of my other videos. Bunnies up!